Well, hello, everyone. LeAnne, Coach LeAnne, and I are on just a little bit early just to see if we have any tech problems. So we will wait for all of you to come at the top of the hour, just 30 seconds early. But so far, so good. It looks like my mic is working. LeAnne, talk a minute.
Hello, everyone. Hey, Leslie.
Yeah, so we just got on and our mics are working. We're so happy and our tech is working and it looks like we're live on Facebook and it looks like we're live on YouTube, but you know the drill, ladies. We need to hear from you. We don't want to just talk to each other. So hi, Bridget. Thank you so much. So Facebook is live. Yay. And we'll wait and see if YouTube is live as well before we get into our content. But today we're talking about, thank you so much, Gabrielle, for letting us know on YouTube. I'm going to be doing some live podcasting on YouTube. And we invite you, YouTubers who are on my YouTube channel, if you'd like to submit some questions for our podcast, you can submit them to Julie@leslievernick.com, or you can just ask them live when we're on our podcast. But we're going to do a live podcast. We'll let you know when that's going to be. But if you have some questions that you'd like me to ask, since you don't really get to ask them live as much in these formats, we want to give you that opportunity as well. So welcome, everyone. Good morning and good afternoon, wherever you are in this part of the world. I'm in the morning. LeAnne is in the morning. Some of you are at noon. New Jersey is noon. So thank you for showing up. And we're here. We're live. I'm so happy we don't have to cancel this like we did my resentment one. And we'll reschedule that. I'm not sure when, but we'll reschedule it before the workshop so that you who struggle with resentment and wanted to kind of talk to me about that, we will reschedule it. It'll probably be for an evening time for sometime next week. So just look at your emails as they come in. We will redo that. So good afternoon, everyone. So what do you guys think? We're going to be talking about the difference between giving up and letting go. And sometimes we do both, or sometimes we think we're doing one when we're really doing the other. So I would love to invite you to share your thoughts on what is your idea of the difference. What's letting go and what is giving up? Are they the same thing or are they markedly different? Let us know. What are your thoughts? What is the difference between letting go and giving up? You're so welcome, Mary. I had so much to say about resentment because I have been a queen of the expert of holding on to resentment, thinking that it was going to get me what I wanted. And it did. It just made me sick. But so I will share and talk about that. But definitely, I will reschedule that.
Leslie, if you're the queen, then I'll say that I've been a princess in that arena as well. And so I'm looking forward to hearing what you have to say. And I see Gabrielle is saying letting go is releasing expectations. Thank you for your thought. One is constructive and one is productive, and the other, or one is constructive and productive, and the other is non-productive. Thank you, Lynn.
Yeah, you guys, you're showing up, but you're so wise already, which I love. This is one of the things that we love, LeAnne and I love, is the community that we create. And we really want to foster that because, I mean, LeAnne is not only one of my coaches, she's a friend, and we talk and hang out together and support each other. And you need people in your life who know you and know your life and know what you're going through and can help you. And so we try to create not only you coming to hear us, we are just women like you who have been through the trenches, and maybe we're a few steps ahead of you. Some of you, maybe not, but you have so much wisdom collectively to share with one another, so much goodwill, so much support, even in this public Facebook page. It just blesses me to be here with you. And so I just want you to appreciate what it feels like to be in a loving community, because some of you are not in a loving community. You're in a harsh legalistic church, you're in a harsh family, you're in a destructive marriage, and you feel flat ironed. You feel like there is no you left. And so I hope that you get a breath of fresh air when you come here and experience people who listen to what you have to say, who validate your wisdom, who applaud you for your courage in speaking up. And we just want you to know that we want you to have that experience. And that's one of the reasons that we take our workshop off of social media, so that you feel freer and safer to have those kind of conversations with one another and with our team. And so when we do our workshop next week, and I'll put the link in for that for those of you who haven't signed up yet, we really want you to show up live, because the content is amazing. I've worked really hard at creating some amazing content for you for the workshop next Thursday on I'm not okay when you're not okay. And what do you do about that? What's his problem? What's my problem? What's our problem? So I'm going to give you some amazing content, about an hour's worth of teaching. You're going to workbook that you can really chew on for a while. However, I personally think the most valuable thing that you will get from that workshop is being with one another. And so I really encourage you highly, if you've signed up for the workshop or if you're thinking about it, really make a commitment to yourself to attend live. I think it'll make all the difference in the world.
It does. Leslie, I just put up the banner for you while you were sharing. I got your
Thank
back,
you.
girlfriend. You're welcome. And so I just so agree with you. This is what we get to do. This is a gift you can give yourself. And so, you don't need to give up and turn in your resignation letter for your own energy and your own well-being. You don't need to give up the best parts of you. You can learn to let go of what is not working well and start embracing and welcoming and inviting in what will serve you. So go right here to this link. I'm going to be a little animated here, but right here we go. So go to leslievernick.com/join webinar. For those of you who are just listening in and can't see us, we warmly welcome you into this space. Leslie, we're so grateful that you have given so much attention to this topic about we can be okay when others aren't okay. We can be okay when others aren't okay with us and when they're not okay even within themselves. So thank you for that beautiful reminder.
You're so welcome. And all of you are putting in such great ideas in the chat of what the difference is between letting and go and giving up. And so I don't really we think we need to teach about that. I think we just need to talk about that because you know the difference. So, and I think LeAnne said it so beautifully when she said, we need to learn to let go of what's not working for us. We don't give up on ourselves. We let go of what's not working for us. And one of the things along this conversation that we're having right now that does not work for good mental and emotional or spiritual health is isolation. And isolation is one of the main tactics of an abuser in an abusive relationship. They want to isolate you. They don't want you listening to Leslie Vernick or LeAnne Parsons. They don't want you reading books. They don't want you having friends. They don't want you being engaged in a community because it's less, they have less control over you if you are letting other people's perspectives into your mindset. They have less control over you if you are learning to think for yourself, which I'm trying to help you do, and LeAnne's trying to help you do, as our other coaches are, because this is crucial for your well-being as a healthy adult woman, is to not defer your decision-making power to those in your life. That's your responsibility to steward. Doesn't mean you don't submit sometimes, but even when you submit, you decide to submit. When you're forced to submit, that is not biblical submission. It's oppression and coercion. So part of our goal for you is to be experiencing what it's like to be in community with other women, so that those of you who might be in destructive and abusive marriages or other relationships that are harmful to you understand that part of your getting out of that is getting out of isolation. And even if it's just on this Facebook page, I am grateful that you're here and that you are making a decision to not just be alone with your own thoughts and the oppressor's thoughts.
Leslie, so good. I love it. What a great exhortation. I'm so glad, that we get to be in this space, and Facebook and YouTube records it for us because we can go back and re-listen to that. And, as we do this work, I think one thing that we see in the feed and that we know about this ministry and the people who are here is that they value our biblical stance. They value the groundedness in which we speak from, coach from, and love and serve from. And, when I was preparing for our time together today, I was reminded by this beautiful passage from scripture. So would it be okay if I shared something that really helped me get ready?
Sure.
And it's Ephesians 5:15-17. Be very careful then how you live, not as unwise, but as wise, making the most out of every opportunity, because the days are evil. Therefore, do not be foolish, but understand what the Lord's will is. And for me, we can go to scripture and God gives us really clear examples about letting go and giving up and what is foolish and what is wise. And so we get to do this. We don't need to be simple minded. We can be wise and we can ask God to help us when we're in the messy middle and we're not quite sure if we're ready to let go or if we're ready to give up. We get to seek the Lord and inquire of Him because He doesn't want us to be foolish. He wants us to lean in with Him in fresh and new ways every day because His mercies are new every morning. I don't know about y'all, but I needed a fresh dose of Jesus this week. How about you guys?
Yeah, every day, every day. And I want to, so surrendering to God and saying, I have a tattoo that I got in Israel right here. My only tattoo. I thought that will be my souvenir from Israel. So this is my tattoo. LeAnne got one too, but it's very small because I wasn't sure I would like it. So I thought I'll put my watch over it if I don't like it. But I like it. I love it. And what it says, it's in Aramaic. I don't know if I can turn my wrist. Oops.
Oh, can't see. There we go.
There we go. It's in Aramaic, so nobody really knows what it says but me unless they ask. But what it says is, thy will be done. Thy will be done. Because that's my consent to saying, Lord, I surrender. I let go of my agenda right now and I surrender to you. It's not about me. It's not about what I want. Even though what I want might be totally good, I'm not actually getting what I want right now, whether it's a loving marriage, whether it's getting to the airport on time, whether it's my bank account looking the way I want it to look, whether my people appreciate me the way I want them to. I'm not getting that. And am I going to stew in anger and resentment? Or am I going to surrender that to God, that I don't need that? And we'll unpack all this if you're getting like, what you talking about? We'll unpack this in the workshop, but I don't need all of that. So I want it, of course. I want my life to go well. I want people to appreciate me. I want to get to the airport on time. There's nothing wrong with what I want. But when I'm not getting what I want, can I trust God knows better what I need? And I surrender that to Him. So that's letting go of my agenda and trusting God. And LeAnne's verse in Ephesians was just a reminder of letting go of sometimes we have to let go of what we think is the right way. And so many of us think that we have the right answer for someone else. You have the right answer of what your husband needs to be the husband and the man he could be. You have the right answer of what needs to be fixed in your marriage in order for it to survive. You know what he needs to do in order for him to stop being so selfish or so prideful or so abusive. You know that. And you might be absolutely right. But you have to let go because you cannot fix or change him.
That's right.
How do you let go of that? And trust God to show you what you're to do about your problem. Because if he doesn't change and he's still abusive or indifferent and neglectful or whatever, drinking and cheating and lying and whatever else he might be doing, if you can't change him, you definitely have a problem. And that's where you need to take ownership. What do I do about my problem? I can't fix his problem. My problem is I'm in a crummy marriage. My problem is I have someone in my life who harms me. My problem is I don't feel safe. My problem is I don't have enough money to leave. My problem is I don't know what to do. Okay. That's where you can begin to solve and work on your problems versus and letting go of banging your head against the wall, living in Groundhog Day after day after day, trying to fix someone who doesn't want to change. Does that make sense?
Oh, it makes makes sense to me. And, it's so empowering to think that we can gain some awareness about what we're going through emotionally, and then we can choose growth. And so letting go means we can't do it for somebody else, but we can take care of ourselves. God's given us this one precious life to steward and to navigate and to, not pretend, not put on a mask or pretend we're somebody that we're not. And so part of letting go is letting go of fear and insecurity that could keep us doing or being somebody that we're not. And and giving up those false identities, giving up some of those beliefs and some of the lies that we can tell ourselves that keep us in a stuck space and have us holding on so tight to others that we don't make room for God to work.
One of the things that is so important, ladies, so it's really top of mind for me because I'm doing a workshop for the American Association of Christian Counselors, a 3-hour workshop on abuse, trauma, and the emotionally destructive relationship. And it's broader than just marriage. There's a lot of spiritual abuse going on in churches right now, a lot of bully pastors, a lot of sexual abuse in churches by people in power over those who are less powerful. So it's really top of mind. But one of the things that creates a trauma isn't what happens to you. Trauma is what happens in you. And one of the things that happens in you because of a situation in your life is that that creates that trauma experience in you is the feeling of powerlessness and helplessness. Like, I have no choice. I have no voice. This is being done to me and I can't get out of it. Right? So that's what creates the internal sense of powerlessness and trauma. And so one of the things that happens if you're in a destructive relationship, especially as a woman, because we are groomed almost to be passive because of submission and because we need to stay married at all costs, all of those kind of teachings that are on us, that we get re-traumatized over and over again. And so one of the things I'm top of mind working with counselors and helping pastors and helping them understand is that one of the most important first steps of healing. So I'm going to speak this to you because I don't know where you're at, but I guess that many of you are listening have been somewhat traumatized in a relationship, or you wouldn't even be listening to me. And so you've been traumatized in a relationship. And so one of the things that you must not give up on or let go of, either one, is your God-given right to choose. So when you feel powerless and you feel helpless and you don't have a voice or a choice, that's re-traumatizing you. Right? So one of the things that we do here is we want you to have a voice. We want you to recognize that your precious life is worth stewarding. And we can surrender to God, but sometimes we still need to let go. And I'm going to give you an illustration of where Jesus did this. I don't exactly remember where it's in the Bible, but I think it might be in Luke chapter 19, but I don't promise that. But you can just Google the story and it'll show up on your Google and you can find it, okay? Remember when Jesus met the rich young ruler? And the rich young ruler said to Jesus, "What do I need to do to have a relationship with God?" And Jesus said, "Well, you need to keep the commandments." And he said, I do all that, right? And he had a couple other things he needed to do. And he says, "Well, if you really want to have a deeper relationship with God, just get rid of your money and come and follow me because I'm God. Come and follow me." And the rich young ruler said, can't do that. Don't want to do that. Now, here's Jesus, perfect in every way. He's inviting this man into a relationship with him. But there's certain requirements for that. And the man made a choice. Don't want to do that. And so what did Jesus do? Did he fix him? Did he beg him? Did he plead with him? Oh, no. Did he change the rules? Okay, you don't have to do that. I just love you so much. Come on, let's follow me anyway. It doesn't matter what you do. No. What did Jesus do? He let him go. He let him go. He let him decide what he wanted. He didn't want this relationship that way. And he let him go. And there's a Matthew 19. So it wasn't Luke, it was Matthew. Thank you, Kelly. But the really interesting part of that story is it says Jesus looked at him and loved him. He didn't become bitter because this man refused his invitation. Some of you are inviting your husband into real change. You're saying, "Hey, I can't be married to you if you don't want to be faithful, if you don't want to be honest, if you don't want to be trustworthy. I don't know how to do life with you. If you don't want to be safe, I don't know how to do that. I'm not willing to do that. I don't think it's wise to do that. Not for me, not for you. I'm not going to enable your selfishness anymore." You're inviting him to change. Whether or not he changes is his choice. Can you love him and let him go, not having a loving relationship? Jesus didn't have a loving relationship with this person, but he still loved him, right? And so this is kind of what we're going to be unpacking. How do I love in freedom, not in fear?
That's right.
Oh, I have to change rules because if I don't let him do what he wants to do, he'll leave me. Well, that's not true love then, because true love gives someone the freedom to walk away. That's letting go, not in a harsh way. But if your husband doesn't give you the freedom to have a voice, to have a choice, to say no, then you're being oppressed. And that's not a healthy relationship. And so I think this is part of what we want you to think about as we're talking about letting go, not just giving up on, I just have to be a victim my whole life. It's my lot in life. I just talked to somebody yesterday who has that mindset, and I'm like, you can think that way. It's just not true. But that's where she was thinking. Just have to let go and give up and just be a victim because nobody listens to what I have to say anyway, and it doesn't matter. So I'm just helpless and powerless over my entire life because this one person won't change. And it's not true. It's not true, but it's the story she's telling herself right now. And because she's telling herself that story, all the options are closed because she can't see them.
Absolutely. And it's, that gets us to that space where nobody wins. When you're in that mindset of I lose and it's hopeless or helpless. And we want to get you to the space of, let's look for the win-win here. And so this webinar is going to give you some opportunities in order to make those invitations. And, when we think about letting go, and Leslie, I love what you shared, we can acknowledge that we have limits and other people do too. And so sometimes when you invite somebody in, they may not have the bandwidth or the agency to join you in a healing journey because they're not willing to put in the work. And so releasing them helps preserve your dignity as well as theirs. It's a gift. It's a gift. And so, we have an opportunity to grow. I believe that if we're still on this earth, if we're still living, breathing, and on even social media right now, if we're here in this space, then we have choices whether we're going to grow or not. And so you're either in with growth or you're not. And that's something that we can do. And we can learn how to respond differently. We can learn how to grow our awareness. We can learn how to release the burden of trying to control others. I don't know how many of you feel the weight of the world or all of your relationships on your shoulders. Perhaps like you, and you might feel that. And so you don't have to carry it for somebody else. And that's something else that letting go is. It's letting somebody else carry their weight while you carry yours.
Yeah, and the Bible talks about that. Each one should take or carry his own load. So let's just do a little bit of what I'm going to actually do in this workshop in September. So my marker didn't work, my black marker, so I was digging up this is the only color I could find. So if we want to have a healthy relationship with someone, right, what are the qualities that people have to have inside to create that? If you want to have a non-abusive, non-destructive marriage, it might not be a romantic marriage. It may not be a, stars, fireworks marriage. It may just be even a boring but fine marriage. But if you want to have a healthy marriage, or let's say any kind of relationship, a girlfriend, business partnership, if you want to have a healthy relationship with someone, what are some of the personal qualities that you need to have in order to make that possible? What are some of the gifts of who you are that you need to bring into the relationship to create a healthy relationship? So why don't you brainstorm? Let's write some of them down. What are some of the gifts? Because it'll tell you right away in a relationship whether someone has those gifts or even wants to develop those gifts. Right? What are some of maturity? But what does maturity look like? All right, transparency, empathy. Yes, empathy. All right. So empathy, maturity. Let's make more specific maturity. What does maturity look like? Trustworthiness. Okay. Trustworthiness. What else?
I see self-introspection,
Okay.
respect.
Okay. The ability to be self aware. That is crucial. All right. Because you can't change anything. No one's perfect, but
That's
you
right.
can't change anything if you can't see it or aren't willing to look at it. All right. So what else?
Kindness.
Honesty.
I see
Kindness.
kindness. Yep.
Okay.
Honesty.
Kindness. Honesty. So trustworthiness would include honesty. All right. What else? Caring. All right. So compassion and caring. Okay. The ability to show. Now, what's the difference between caring and love bombing? Right? Because this is important because love bombing looks like caring. Right? But love bombing has a very different motive.
I love, Michelle said self-control.
Self-control. Okay.
That's the big one, my friends.
Yes, a
And
huge one.
it is, and that's the fruit of the spirit. And if I could just say something super quick that's really coming up for me, just even here in this moment as we're doing this brainstorming, is there's also this element of courage. I believe that that is a healthy sense of self. Courage is getting in touch with who you are. I love it because courage talks about the core of who we are. The root word of courage is core. It's core. It's your heart strength. It's your resiliency. And I think that that is such a huge part of healthy because we can turn the other way in fear or insecurity. When we embrace courage, God gives us an extra measure of strength. We can gain strength from Him as we get in touch with who we are in our DNA. He is the one who imprints us. I'm standing on it. I'm getting fired up because He is the one who imprints us in our DNA with courage. And it is up to us whether or not we tap into that. It's in you, my friends. Whether
And
or
that's why
not
God
you
tells
have
us not to be afraid. Yeah.
right, whether or not we cultivate it, nourish it, feed it, that's our choice. It's in there. And sometimes the betrayals, the addictions, the abuse can hide that or shadow over it. And we want to help clear away all of the unhealthy that can keep that hiding.
LeAnne, there's a question on the chat about what is love bombing. Some of the people are, addressing it, but do you want to give a stab at it?
Well, yeah. And so let me just say this part. I want to hear what some of you say about love bombing because we have a very sharp community here. There's something called the abuse cycle that we have talked about. And so perhaps I'm going to give a little scenario to set it up a little as we're putting into the chat, if that's okay. So things blow up in your house. Things blow. I have my whiteboard. All right, here we go. All right, so we have a blow up. I'm going to put that on top. We have a blow up. Okay. What happens in your house? I'm going to walk. Is it okay if I walk them through what it could look like? So we have a blow up in your house. How do you respond to a blow up in your house? And what does that look like? So perhaps you respond to a blow up in your house with fear. Maybe you shut down. Maybe you blow back up. So if somebody in your household, in your workspace, wherever you are, blows up, what happens inside of you? All right. So like I said, maybe you have fear, maybe you shut down, maybe you blow up as well. Right. Then there's this little phase of might be a little bit of calm. There might be a little bit of calm. You bring yourself back under self-control. You've prayed, you've done some self-reflecting, and it gets a little bit calmer in the moment. Okay. Maybe what's happening inside someone that is blowing up with you, maybe they start bringing flowers, making promises to change, maybe acts of service come into the picture, and they're pulling out all the stops. Okay. Pulling out all the stops to try and manipulate the situation so they don't feel discomfort could be a form of love bombing. I look at love bombing. So I'm going to see, yeah, self-centered. I love it. I love to hear what you say. It is selfish and self-serving. It's manipulative at its core. Yes, it's manipulative, and it's often an abusive behavior. So it could be excessive affection. It could be attention. It could be gifts. It could be compliments in an attempt to regain control over you or manipulate your emotions. That is love bombing. It's not healthy. It's not healthy love and care like we talked about when Leslie had those beautiful circles up. This is manipulative. It's a tactic used to exploit your vulnerability. So maybe you did calm down. Maybe you're wanting to make things better and meet them where they're at. An abuser, a perpetrator, whatever, however you want to phrase it, will use it to exploit your vulnerabilities. And so I'm going to pause there. This is pretty passionate for me because I see it in the women I work with. I've seen it in my own life as I have grown healthier. And so, Leslie, I'm going to pause, take a breath, take a drink of my water, because this is a big topic.
Here's one way you can tell real quickly. So he's love bombing you, or is he just really sorry? Is he loving bombing you, or is he really sorry? Right? So this is hard for you to discern because you want what he's doing because it does feel good. So let's be real. It feels good to be flattered and told he needs you so much and you're the best thing that's ever happened to him. And it feels good for him to buy you flowers and cook dinner and take care of the kids and whatever else he's doing. It feels much better than the blow up incident, right? So here's the test. There's something he wants. When he's doing that, there's something if it's love bombing, it's something he wants. He wants you to hug him. He wants you to not call the police. He wants you to not put in the consequences that you threatened. He wants you to make nice. He wants you to go to bed with him. He wants something. He wants to come home if he's separated from you. There's something he wants, and he's using his charm to get it, right? If that's been the pattern, pay attention to your role in this. So if he gets it, he might continue his love bombing for a little bit, but here's what you need to do differently. Don't give it to him. Whatever it is he wants, just say, hey, I appreciate all that you're doing. Thank you very much. So you can be appreciative, but I'm not ready for that. I'm not ready for you to move home. I'm not ready for you to sleep with me. I'm not ready for a hug yet. Right? So you're not saying you're still a loser. You're saying, hey, what you're doing is lovely, but I'm not ready. Let's see if he cares about you.
That's right.
Because if he cares about you and what he's doing, he'll say, I don't want to pressure you. Of course not. Take your time. Do what you need to do to take care of you. That's what a healthy person would do if they messed up, because we mess up. We all stumble in many ways. James 3:2 says we mess up. And if I messed up a friendship by telling something about somebody that they didn't want me to tell, and they're now all mad, and I come back with love bombing and I want them to forgive me and let it go and be my friend again. And they say, I'm not ready to trust you. And I flip out on them. Then all of what I just did was manipulative to get them to forgive me. If they say, I'm not ready, and I say, I totally understand. Take your time and what can I do to make this right? Let me know and I'll try to do that. That's very different, right? So you're having to be courageous, like LeAnne said, and use your no. This isn't going to work. And don't say it that way. Just say, I'm not ready, because you want to know if they care about you. They don't. An abuser doesn't care about you. He cares about what you do for him. And so as long as you take down the rules or the consequences or the boundaries or whatever you put in place during the blow up, he will love bomb you until you do. And then when you do, everything looks fine. And oh, he's changing. He's not changing. He's just using the other side of the coin. Mean guy, nice guy. There, you wouldn't have married him if he showed you his mean guy side. But the nice guy side isn't authentically him. It's a manipulative gesture to maintain control over you. So here's where you have to do it different. So his problem is he wants you back. Your problem is you don't feel safe. And he's going to love bomb you, making you think you're safe. You have to be smart enough to realize what is happening here. I need to exercise my no. Because if he's really trying to create safety, when I say no, he would honor that. If he's trying to get me under his control again, he will then switch gears and either up the love bombing or he will turn into Mr. Mean Guy again. Oh, you just think you're so spiritual. Oh, you just don't forgive, do you? You know everything, don't you? You've been listening to whatever they say it, all right? And understand it's still manipulative. It's still manipulative to try to get you under their control again.
It is, Leslie, and I just so appreciate, your way of explaining that. It was so good. And, we want to help you clear away that cloudy judgment that love bombing can invite in. It's, you are wise women. You have been given beautiful minds. Mm-hmm. And when you are being love bombed, it can cloud your thinking. It can cause you to have so much self-doubt and confusion. And, that is a tactic to keep you emotionally dependent on them for your well-being.
And then we're going to go back to here. So if you're emotionally dependent and he's controlling, then is this the healthy relationship? Right? If you have no voice and he controls everything, is this a healthy relationship? No. No. So his problem is he's controlling. Your problem is you let it happen. You let yourself be controlled. So what might you need to do to become healthy? And as you become healthy, which hopefully you're learning some of in these workshops, and you will learn more about that in our workshop. As you learn to become healthy, it's either going to invite him to become healthy too, or he's going to try to get you to go back to your old unhealthy ways so he can maintain control over you, right? So the bottom line is, I'm not going to take a lot of time to explain this, but two unhealthy people cannot make a healthy relationship.
That's right.
Two unhealthy people cannot make a healthy relationship. And therefore, the generation that comes up through that family also gets impacted. But one healthy person cannot make a healthy relationship. All right? One healthy person can be an influence in a family, for sure. But one healthy person cannot make a healthy relationship if the other person has qualities that keep sabotaging the relationship and won't change them. Right? If they don't have empathy or self-control, or they're not trustworthy, or they're not self-aware, or they don't care, or they're not forgiving, or they're not kind, if they don't have some of those qualities, or they don't want to develop them, you can't. Jesus was healthy. And he invited this rich young ruler into a relationship he didn't want to. Jesus didn't force this man into a relationship that he didn't want or couldn't maintain. And that's where letting go, LeAnne, when you were so wise, when you said, sometimes the kindest thing to do is to accept someone the way they are and honor their no. I don't want to be empathetic. I don't want to learn. I don't want to be self-aware. I don't want to learn to forgive. I want to stay bitter and angry and resentful and hard-hearted and controlling. And they won't say that with their words, but by their actions, that's what they're saying. Because I feel more powerful that way. Inside, I'm broken and I'm not willing to look at my brokenness, but I can feel better if I can bully others. If I can manipulate others, if I can get one over on you, I feel more powerful, and that works for me. And I'm not willing to change that. And they may not be able to articulate that in that way, but that's what they're saying. Honor that. Okay. But I have to let go of trying to do life with you then, because it's not safe for me.
Right, and safety, Leslie, you've said so often over the years that has just rung so true. Without safety, there is no trust, and without trust, there is no safety. And my friends, can I just give you a maybe you need to write a permission slip. Maybe what you're hearing here is heavy and it's hard to listen to. And maybe you need some time to recharge. Give yourself that gift.
Mhm.
Give yourself that gift. And sometimes even asking, after you invite somebody in, whether they choose to walk in Healthy Land with you or not, part of letting go is agreeing that you're two different people and that maybe having some time alone to get some personal space and do some of your own work to figure out what matters most to you, what is most important for this relationship to move forward. What
Mhm.
what are your non-negotiables? And this is some of the boundary setting that we talk about a lot. And this is also an opportunity for you to learn to communicate what you will do and what you won't do, what's okay with you and what's not okay with you. And that is so linked with your topic for the webinar coming up.
Yeah.
Because if we're not okay when they're not okay, you're going to be depleted. You're going to lose all courage and you're going to be stuck in spaces and places where your judgment is going to be clouded. You're not going to be able to show up your best self for you, for your community, for God, for your family. And
Mhm.
I know our community well enough here in this space that you're here because you want to grow beyond that.
Yeah.
You want to
Yeah.
grow
So,
beyond that. And sometimes giving yourself some breathing room so you can think and get clear is
mhm.
a beautiful gift you can give yourself.
Yeah. So good, LeAnne. I want to switch to some questions. There's been two questions in the chat that I'm going to answer real quickly because I can do that
Mm.
quickly. And then I want to go to the question tracker because we're already at 9:45.
Oh my.
But one person couldn't make the link work, Kelly. So I'm not sure what happened. I think that was Colleen. So Colleen, I'm going to say the link in case you're not on a place where you can read the link. The link is to sign up for the workshop is Leslie Vernick, which is my name, LeSlievernick.com. So that's easy to remember. And then you put a /, and then the next word is all one word, join webinar. Don't put a space there. LeSlievernick.com / join webinar. And if you try that link and for whatever reason you're having trouble, then could you please email our team at assistant@leslievernick.com, assistant@leslievernick.com, and just say, hey, I'm trying to sign up for the workshop, but I can't get through or I can't get in. Sometimes that just happens. I had tech problems the other day. So, I totally understand that. And they're prepared to help you. So if that's what's happening and you're not able to register for some reason, then just reach out to our team at assistant@leslievernick.com.
Hey,
Second question.
Leslie. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. Can I just add to that just super quick? So some people are asking when the workshop is. It's not up on the banner. So it's coming up on Thursday, a week from today, the 17th. So you've got 7 days between now and then to carve out time in your schedule. It's going to be offered 2 different times on the 17th. So anyway, I just wanted to throw that out there.
Thank you. Yeah, we'll have to fix that banner. But yeah, it's August 17th. It's noon Eastern time, 7:30 Eastern time. And a full disclosure, we're usually on for about 2.5 to 3 hours. So just like these Facebook Lives run long, we say it's an hour and it usually runs an hour and a half or so. In full disclosure, so I will be teaching you from the topic, I'm not okay when he's not okay. How do you learn the difference between his problem, your problem, and our problem? And whose problem do you tackle first? And how do you do that? That's going to be the content of the webinar. I will teach you everything that you need to know. At the end, I will invite you to join our group if you want to have help doing it. But you'll have all the tools, you'll know what to do. It's not a sales pitch for that. You will get all the information and a workbook for you to take and do what you want to do. If you want to do it all by yourself, that's totally fine. You'll have the information to do it. If you are the kind of person who wants some extra support, we'll make that available as well for you at the end. But the workshop, in all honesty, you know how long it takes to teach just a little bit in a Facebook Live. So to really give you the content and the meat and the verses to help you feel confident that this is God's word, it's going to take me about an hour. Okay. So just be prepared, be there, because you can chat, you can ask questions. And then afterwards, I will stay and answer your questions, and it'll be off social media. So it's very private. It doesn't go, the replay does not contain the chat, so that doesn't ever be disclosed, nor does it contain the question and answer section. So if you can't show up live, you really don't get the full experience. It's like watching a Facebook Live and not being able to read the chat here. Look at all the wisdom that's in the chat here. You just hearing from me and LeAnne can be helpful for sure. But I think, wow, being here live and hearing the interaction and getting the community support and hearing women who say, hey, I did that, tried that, it didn't work, here's what I did. And that can be really helpful for you. So please, if this is you and you are stuck, please show up live. Give yourself that gift. It's totally free. You can be there, you can learn, you can grow, you can change, and you don't have to live in fear, isolation. And I believe, God has put a light inside of you. He did from the time he created you. You are fearfully and wonderfully made. And if someone else has blown your light out, we remember that little song, This Little Light of Mine, I'm going to let it shine. And don't let someone blow it out. How do you stop that? How do you know not to let someone blow your light out? If you're a wife and you're supposed to submit and your husband's a bully, how do you do that? And so we're going to talk about that. All right. Second question is, Michelle says, what's wrong with me that saying no makes me feel like I'm hurting him? Well, you are hurting him. If someone says no to you, don't you feel a little hurt? Right? So here's the difference. You're not responsible for how he takes something. If you're not meaning to hurt him, you're not harming him. So if my doctor says, no, this chemo won't work, I'm going to feel hurt, right? I'm going to feel hurt because I want that chemo to work for me, right? And so when people tell us no, when you tell your child, no, you can't play on the iPad any longer, they're going to feel upset. We're going to have a kind of feeling when someone tells us no. Even your baby, when you say, I can't come to you right in this moment, they let you know, I'm not happy with you, mom, right? They start screaming and wailing. So you're not a bad person because you hurt someone's feelings. It says, actually, faithful are the wounds of a friend, right? Faithful. So sometimes our words that we have to speak to someone, no, that won't work for me. This is not in alignment with who I am. No, you can't control me. I'm an adult. I get to decide what I'm going to do, right? That might hurt their ego, their pride, their feelings. You're not intending to harm them. Love does no harm. It doesn't ever say in the Bible, love never hurts. Sometimes love does hurt. So when you speak the truth in love to someone, if my doctor speaks the truth in love to me and says, you have breast cancer, it's going to hurt my feelings, but he's not saying it to harm me. He's saying it to help me. When you speak hard truth to your husband, I'm just going to give some minor things. You have bad breath. Here's a TikTok. Don't you imagine that's going to hurt his feelings a little bit? But you're not saying it to harm him. You're saying it to help him show up as his best self. When you say, honey, I think you were really harsh with the kids. That's the role of a good wife. You're giving him feedback so that he can be the dad, hopefully, he wants to be. But if he squashes that or shames that or says, oh, you're hurting my feelings, you can't tell me anything, you don't, it ties you as a helpmate. You can't help him. And you can't help him be the best man he could be. Therefore, don't do it. He's saying, I don't want to know that. I don't want to fix me. That tells you something. He's not healthy, because a healthy person is self-aware. So I'm just going to be gross here. How many of you kind of know when you have a little booger on the side of your nose? Like, you can feel it. You don't have to look in the mirror. You kind of know, like you feel it and you fix it because you want to show up without that booger in your nose, right? Or when you've been unkind. When you've been harsh to your kids. When you've been snarky to the clerk because she was too slow to you. You know that. Your conscience says that's not how you want to show up. You know that. And if you don't know that, if for some reason you got makeup down by your eyes and you have no idea, or one time I was leaving a speaking event, I was going to a speaking event, I was in the bathroom. This was in the days of pantyhose. And I was wearing pantyhose and had a skirt. And you know how when you go to the bathroom, sometimes your pantyhose catches and caught the back of my skirt. And so I'm walking out of the bathroom with my hiney showing. And a gracious woman behind me said, I don't think you want to show up this way. Let me pull your skirt down. Thank God for her, because I wasn't aware. And that is the role of one anothering in the body of Christ. That is the role of a helpmate, is that you help your husband see what he doesn't see. But if he doesn't want to see it, it doesn't matter if you shout it from the rooftop. He's not going to hear it. Even Jesus said, you don't want to see, you don't want to hear. You're like the blind leading the blind, and you cover your ears because they don't want to change. They're not healthy. They're not self-aware, nor are they wanting to be self-aware. When someone, we're not all self-aware by ourselves. How many of you looked in the mirror this morning? That's right. I looked in the mirror because the mirror is my friend. It tells me you have boogers in your nose, or you have makeup on your face, or your hair sticking up straight. It's our friend. Same with one anothering. When someone tells you something that hurts my mirror hurts my feelings every morning. It says every morning, you need a shower, you need to fix your hair, and you need to put some makeup on, girl, before you ever do a Facebook Live. All right? It's telling me the truth. I wish it didn't have to say those things about me, but it does. And I accept them and I fix it. Right? So I would encourage you, Michelle, to not worry about hurting your husband's feelings. Say it as kindly and as respectfully as you can. If it hurts his feelings, maybe that's part of what he needs to manage in order to grow. Right.
Well, and we have an opportunity to prepare a little bit before we have conversations like that as well. And so I got to share this. So we've been together on many lives, Leslie, and I've heard you share the nose booger story. So I just want to talk for just a second about
Don't
that.
tell me I have one and I didn't notice it.
You don't. But so when I was in high school, I had a group of friends that I ran with. And we had a little phrase that we would say to each other if we had a booger in our nose, because we were all concerned about image, right? And we had a bird in the sky. That's what it was. They said, "Do you see that bird in the sky?" Because when we looked up, it would be there. And so my friends, I say that I share the bird in the sky as a picture of, do you have truth tellers in your life?
Yeah.
That will help you when you are trying to navigate your own self-awareness, because we all have blind spots. I can't see the bird in the sky on my own. I can't look in my nose if I'm looking up. And so this is our opportunity to, do you have an accountability buddy? Somebody that will help you see what you can't see. Because your blind spots will keep you stuck in spaces and places where you will be depleted. And you might not even know it because of your blind spots. So I just wanted to throw that out there.
We cannot be our best self without truth tellers.
That's right.
And I'll just quickly, we're going to go to our question tracker. We've got some questions here, but let me quickly tell you a funny story. So I belong to a group called Spa Sisters, and I haven't been there in the last couple of years, but every year they have a meeting in January, and some pretty big women from the Christian speaking community and writing community, like, Carol Kent and others, show up, and we support one another, encourage one another, have some time to rest and relax. So the last night of this weekend that we were there, we all weigh ourselves, because after Christmas, we're going to be accountable. We're going to take care of ourselves. We're going to be healthier. So the last night of this workshop, a weekend, the electricity went out, and there was no electricity in the entire house, pitch black. And we had to get a shuttle to catch our airplane, and we were 2 hours from the airport. So Georgia, my friend, comes to my door with a headlamp, thankfully, that she had in her suitcase, and she's banging on my door. And we got our plane, we got to go. I had to get ready in the pitch black. Of course, my cell phone didn't charge because electricity went out. So even the cell phone light didn't work. We went in this bus. It was like 4 o'clock in the morning or 5 o'clock in the morning. So it was still dark. By the time we got to the airport, It was so funny. People had clothes on inside out because you couldn't see what you were putting on. One woman had two different shoes on. She had our hair was sticking up. So people who tried to put their makeup on like had little rosy cheeks. It was so funny. You can't be yourself in the best possible way without lights, without mirrors, without truth tellers. And that's what marriage does. You have a special truth teller that you trust has your back and isn't going to let you go out the door or talk to your kids in ways that dishonor yourself and your commitment to them unless they don't want to hear. And that shows you that they're unhealthy. They don't want to learn and they don't even value you as a truth teller. It's like taking a gun and shooting your mirror for telling you the truth, or your scale. I'm not happy with you. I'm not going to talk to you anymore because you told me the truth. I mean, how immature is that? But that's what some people are. They're very immature and unhealthy. And they shoot the messenger because they don't like the message.
So good. So important.
So let's go to some questions.
Let's do it. And somebody did ask in the feed about asking anonymous questions. If you go to leslievernick.com/question/ you can submit it anonymously. We know and we understand this is Leslie's public page. And perhaps maybe some of you stuff's coming up for you on this live and you would feel safer if you were able to submit an anonymous question. You can totally do that. Oh, there's Addie. She wanted in. She misses you.
She was scratching at the door, and I thought that's going to make a lot of noise. I'll just let her in.
Aw. Would you like me to read the question, Leslie?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
All right. The first question is, the Lord rescued me from a 17-year abusive and destructive marriage 2.5 years ago. I'm a single mom, and I am working 3 jobs to manage, though they are all meaningful work. Healing has been uphill because of my exhaustion and limited time. Whatever I have left after working, I pour into my kids. I have really tried to do things right and in a healthy way. I eat right, exercise, spend time with the Lord and my kids. I've been through a secular healing program. I'm so excited to find you guys. 3 exclamation points, she says. Things looked impossible 2 years ago. I owed my ex a fortune and couldn't afford housing. And God moved and we have our own small home. Things are very tight and I am always working, but he always provides. However, I am burned out and exhausted and miserable. I feel like I can't continue like this much longer. Is there something more I can do to regain my energy?
Yeah, I would say the very first thing is I would go to your doctor and get a eval, because you might be suffering from thyroid, which creates low energy. You might be suffering from vitamin D deficiency, which creates low energy. And so there might be a metabolic reason. Obviously, your schedule is very hectic and you're very, very busy. So those would be the first steps I would take is I would just go get a blood panel and just see what that looks like to see if there is something that can be remedied pretty quickly. The second thing I would do is I would ask yourself honestly how much sleep you're getting, because your sleep cycle is crucial to your energy levels and your mental health and physical health. And so if you're not getting a full 8 hours because of all these jobs and because your commitment to your kids and your exercise and all the other stuff, that may be the quickest bang for your buck in terms of restorative health. I just read a book on sleep. I think it's called Why We Sleep. I'm not positive on the title, but it was very powerful to me on the need. Our body, God has not wired our body to function on busy mode all the time. That's why he created the Sabbath, where we have a day of rest and restoration. And that's why he's created our body to need 8 hours sleep. Most people might think they can get by with 6 hours, 7 hours, and you might be able to do it, but it's costing you. It's costing you, and it's cumulative. So a lack of sleep, day by day, one day, maybe you can get away with it, but if you're doing 6 hours of sleep cumulatively, that may be part of what's happening is your body's breaking down now because it's not getting enough of the, especially the second half of REM sleep that you need to really do restorative work in your body to give you the energy that you need. So those would be the two quick fixes that I might try. The third thing that, I don't know enough details about your life situation, what jobs you're doing, how you're managing all of that. I can't imagine working 3 jobs and taking care of kids and exercising and eating right. I'm having a hard time.
I want to give you a big sister high five for a minute.
Whew. Yeah. So I would really, I might think of some other things, and maybe you could use some, consultation with a good friend about brainstorming what might you do differently. So maybe there's a way to ask for a raise from one of the jobs so that you can let go of another job. Maybe there's a conversation that you can have with your older children to take some of the burden of housework, or younger children needing rides or those kind of things off your plate so that you have more time to sleep in the morning or whatever else you're doing or not doing. So I think there's some conversation about prioritizing your body, because if your body breaks down and you can't work, you're in deep trouble, right? Financially and with your kids. So that's just not an option. So I think you have to prioritize now your health and your body. And that may be saying to your kids, hey, I can't take you to soccer practice at 8 and pick you up at 9:30 every night because I need to be in bed by 9. And so if you want to play soccer, I'll support that as I can, but I can't pick you up at 9:30. You're going to have to find another ride. Right. So those might be some boundaries or some ways that you need to let go of being super mom and super person and super Christian and just be ordinary mom and human mom and limited mom, and let go of your mindset that I have to do it all and I have to do it all well and I have to do it all perfectly, and maybe let go of that streak if that's in you and settle for good enough. And maybe frozen pizza is good enough for a dinner sometimes, or canned soup is good enough for a dinner sometimes, so that you can get to bed earlier or you're not prepping for the next day and those kind of things. So I think there's a combination of things. LeAnne, what do you think?
Oh, I just echo everything that you said. I just think that those are real tangible things that you can do. From personal experience, some of you know I was traveling for the last 2 months camping. Not sleeping in my own bed, lots of things going on in my world. And let me tell you, sleep is key. I was not getting good sleep. Therefore, I could feel I wasn't my best self while I was traveling. And so knowing, my sweet sister, you have limitations. Do you know your limits? Yeah. We're human beings, not human doings. And like I said, I just want to give you a big sister high five. Everything that you're doing is beautiful. Make sure that you're getting your sleep. And I agree as well. My body has broken down in the past because it was not at its optimum. So getting a physical. Sometimes we can forget that. Our bodies will talk to us. Please take care of you before it's completely depleted and you have nothing else to give. Now is your time. Your body is telling you, and thank you for your question. It's huge.
Yeah. I've had thyroid too. And I don't know if you can see my scar. I had my thyroid out. So I totally get, like, you are depleted. And so especially those of you who struggle with depression, when I was writing my book on depression, I found that a lot of depression is vitamin deficiency and thyroid issues. And so please go to your doctor and just get a test. And sometimes the regular thyroid test isn't sufficient. They need to do a little bit of a deeper test. So just make sure that you're taking care of yourself. And I think the kindest thing that you can do to your children, all of you ladies, is be real and not try to be super mom. They need to care about you as much as you care about them. Right. And I don't know how little they are, but if they're over 7 years old, they can do more. Even 5-year-olds can do more. But if they're over 7, they can start to understand that, mommy's working a lot of hours and I need my rest, and you're going to have to take care of this yourself, or no, we can't do this. And they are going to be disappointed, but they're going to be far more disappointed if their mom has a nervous breakdown and can't function at all. Right. So you need to steward the capacity of energy that you have and look at building your bank account. Just like you built your bank account to pay back your husband all that money that probably he mismanaged in your marriage, however that happened. But you resourced yourself to be able to pay that back. Right now, you need to resource yourself. And in order to do that, you're going to have to say no to other things, just like you had to financially. You're going to have to say yes to prioritizing your self-care and sleep in order to build back your energy bank.
It's so good. And you can make the deposits in your own bank account. You don't need to wait for someone else to do deposits for you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right, next question. My husband has refused counseling numerous times. I am already going on my own. I feel this is the only way for us to get past our issues and possibly mend things. I'm at my wit's end, and it feels like it's time to let go since he won't try to get outside help. Am I wrong to give him an ultimatum of go to counseling or it's over?
Well, way to go for taking care of you. You're going to know your limits, and you're going to know what's going to keep you from going into breakdown mode. And as you change some of the dance steps in your relationships, it's going to cause one of two things. He's either going to wake up and want to join you in the new dance, or he's going to say, oh my, this art, he may want to do the waltz and you're wanting to do the Argentinian tango. That's going to tell you a lot of information. Or he may want to do the Cupid shuffle. And so this is where you have an opportunity to work on you. Are you wrong to give him an ultimatum? Only you're going to know and decide whether or not you're wrong or whatever wrong or right is. And so, Leslie, when you were talking about values earlier, that's one of my biggest passions with women is to help them make decisions based on who God created them to be and live in alignment with Him. And so you have, as you're doing your own work, you're going to reveal what things are very, very important to you and what you will tolerate, what you will do and what you won't do moving forward. And so you're at your wit's end now. And so what does your wit's end look like and how will you navigate that for you? And I'm going to turn it back over to you, Leslie, because ultimatums, this really embraces the topic about letting go and giving up. So I'm going to pass the ball to you, my friend.
Yeah, I'm not a favor of ultimatums because I don't think they work. I don't think they work. So it's up to you whether you want to do it. But I don't think that you're going to get the results you want, because even if he complies and goes to counseling, if you go to counseling, you kind of have to get something out of counseling. And he doesn't want to get anything out of counseling. He's already told you that. Or he doesn't think he needs to get anything out of counseling. And so why would you waste the time and money? Counselor is not a magician. A counselor can't make someone do their work. A counselor is a consultant that you go to when you both want advice on fixing something. So if you consult a plumber to come fix your toilet and he says, I don't want to listen to him. I don't have any, no, I don't want, because I don't want to listen to what the plumber. So you got him to go and you paid your $150 and now what? You still haven't gotten any real change. So I don't think that's it, but let me give you a different approach. What if you let go of counseling and instead you embraced, and I'm not saying embrace with affection, I'm saying accept hard truth. He kind of likes himself the way he is and he doesn't want to change. And he's not invested in your feelings about the marriage. Now that's hard truth for you to accept. It's like it might be that you have breast cancer, and that's hard truth too. But to me, that's the healthier option than forcing someone to do something they don't want to do to create a relationship that's not important to them. I mean, I don't think that's going to get you where you want to go, which is a healthy marriage. So I wonder what might be possible if you just stopped nagging and stopped forcing and stopped threatening, and you just said, I accept, whether you say this out loud or you say this to yourself, I accept he does not want to change. I accept that he doesn't want to be the kind of husband that I would feel safe with. So now what's my problem? That's a whole new question, right? That's a whole new question, right? Because you can't arm twist him into being who you want him to be any more than he should arm twist you into being who he wants you to be, right? Part of, and Jesus doesn't arm twist. He didn't arm twist that rich young ruler. He didn't want to do that. And Jesus let him go. So I wonder what might be possible for you and even for him if you just said, so I'm understanding that you don't really want to work on our marriage. You don't really want to change. Things that are important to me aren't important to you. And what that means to me is I don't know how to do life with you anymore. And I wonder what might stir up in him if that was, I'm not faulting you, I'm not faulting me, but unless two are agreed, they can't walk together, right? In two healthy people, we look at this arrangement, are trying to do life together, and that's hard enough because you're still sinners, right? But when you've got someone who doesn't want to do life with you, so why are they here? That might be a better question. Why are you here? It's very obvious you don't want to do life with me. You don't want to fix things. You don't want to work on things. You don't want to change. I need to stop nagging you about that. I respect that, but that means you don't really want what I want, which is a good marriage.
So
and
good.
I have to let go.
So good, Leslie. And the other thing that, in light of what we've talked about already during this live, ultimatums can invite love bombing. Can I just say that if you are giving ultimatums and there's that pressure, it can invite love bombing and manipulation. It's not sustainable if someone is not going to change unless they want to change. So I just felt very empowered or compelled to share that. So I don't believe in ultimatums either.
It's sort of like, we've used this chart before. I won't take the time to write it, but what's external motivation and what's internal motivation? So the external motivation is, oh, if I don't do this, she's going to leave me, but I don't really want to change.
Yeah.
So how long is that going to motivate him to do any work? Not long at all.
Long.
Right? So it has to be the internal motivation of, I don't like the person I am. I don't like the way I treat my family. I don't know what's wrong with me, but I need help. I don't know why I say those things, but I need to learn. That's the internal motivation of changing. That's much more sustainable. It's sort of like, oh, I need to lose weight. I'm going to my high school reunion and I've got to fit into my dress. Well, that's great. You lose weight for 2 weeks or 3 weeks or 6 months, whatever you need to get into your dress to look hot at your reunion. And then it's like, oh, that's over with. Now I can eat what I want. So there's no internal motivation of, I want to be healthy. I want to be at a good weight. It's, I need to fit into this dress for this occasion. When that's over with, I'm back to the way I was. So an ultimatum is externally motivating, right? It's like the policeman. It motivates you to drive slowly when you see him on your tail, right? Because you don't want to get a ticket. But there's nothing in you that says, I really should drive at the speed limit, right? You just don't want to get in trouble, right? So that usually doesn't work, all right, for any long-term change. All right. I've been divorced for over 3 years due to abuse and unsafe living conditions. How do I let go of the longing for the early years of our relationship before things developed into abuse? Stop looking back and have the freedom to move forward in my new life.
You gave yourself an answer to that question. Stop looking back and have the freedom to move forward. What will it take? Lot's wife looked back and she turned into a pillar of salt. And I know that you're here on this live. You don't want to turn into a pillar of salt. And so what will help you to embrace freedom? What will help you to move forward? Maybe it's going to the webinar next Thursday. Have you saved your seat at the webinar? That is a step forward that you can take, a real tangible action step to start looking forward. I want to ask you a question. What's happening in your future that you want to be a part of?
Yeah, that you can look forward to. I love that you brought up Lot's wife, LeAnne. And we both heard a sermon in our church about it, and it was very powerful. But Lot's wife, so if you know the story of Sodom and Gomorrah, they were led by the angels out of this corrupt, evil, debauchery-filled city, right? So when Lot's wife was looking back, I believe she was romanticizing whatever was good back there. She was romanticizing, oh, I hate to leave my home. It was so pretty, even though the whole culture was rotten to the core and God was going to destroy it with fire. She was romanticizing a portion of whatever it was that she was looking back at with longing. And in the picture of turning to a pillar of salt, it solidified her. Like it solidified her. She could no longer look forward and see what God was bringing her to. And so by you romanticizing the early part of your marriage, which I have to tell you, no one has a great 2-year marriage and then someone turns into an abuser. All right. So you're romanticizing certain portions of the relationship before it got harder, maybe before you got smart and started standing up for yourself. When you were the compliant woman to the love bombing husband, it looked like a good marriage. It wasn't, just like Sodom and Gomorrah isn't a good city. But you're romanticizing a portion of that relationship that felt good or felt better and not seeing it as it really holistically is. And I don't want you to get frozen there. And that's what you're scared is happening. And you're right, it could happen. And so we want you to stop doing that. And you're going to have to decide, this is not helpful. This is not helpful. And I need to go forward and create my new future. And so it's a matter of your choice. You have to decide that I will no longer do something, just like someone who's used to watching porn. It feels good in the moment, but it wrecks you. And so you have to say, hey, this is tempting to do, but I'm not going to do this. It harms me long term. And that's your decision to make. But look at the big picture of the consequences if you don't.
Beautiful. So good. Here's another question, Leslie. Speaking of freedom to choose, I have never said no to my husband sexually after marriage, even despite his unrepentive sin. I thought it was because of my vows and beliefs. Truth is, I am very afraid. He's done things I never imagined. My coping.
Yeah, I am so sorry for you and for every Christian woman who has bought into the lie that my body is not my own and therefore my no is null and void once I say yes to marriage. It's not true. That's not what that 1 Corinthians passage means. So again, know your Bible. We've said this over and over and over again. The context of that passage in 1 Corinthians chapter 7, where it says your body is your own, not your own. Let me broaden it for you. So again, context is important. 1 Corinthians was a letter that was written as a follow-up letter to another incident and other issues in the church. So one of the issues in the church were there were new believers coming into the church and they weren't sure, some people were saying, well, if you're a Christian, then your body is evil and you shouldn't even have sex. If you were a pure person, you wouldn't even want sex, and all kinds of weird stuff that was going on about your bodies and sex. And so Paul's addressing that. And he said, hey, if you're married, enjoy your sexual relationship. That's how God made you. It's good. It's good to do that. So he's addressing a concern that was there. And the most interesting thing about this passage, now you have to understand, this is a patriarchal culture. Our culture is also patriarchal. We have a little bit more choice and voice as women than they did in that culture, but it's a patriarchal culture. Men are in charge, men call the shots. So marriage in those days was, men had the right to divorce their wives. Women didn't have the right to divorce their husbands. It was we didn't even have the right to take out a loan without our father's signature in the United States till 1963, I believe, or 1993. I can't remember when. It's recent. Can you imagine? A woman didn't have the right to get a credit card in her own name or take out a bank loan without her husband or her father's signature. That's a patriarchal culture. So that's the culture that the Bible was in when Paul was writing. So the most interesting passage about that passage is the word likewise. Because this is the culture. Men here, women here. And Paul is saying, hey, yeah, marriage is good and you have sex, and if a husband shouldn't a wife shouldn't deprive her husband, and likewise a husband shouldn't deprive his wife. She has sexual needs too. She has a desire for intimacy too. It's not just about you guys. That's what Paul was saying in that passage. Not that you never have the right to say no, because God has gifted us with agency, human freedom to say no, to choose to say yes, and to choose to say no. So don't let that passage be used as a weapon to take away your no. That doesn't mean he's going to like it. And that's a whole other story. So when you say no, are you treated as an object to use? And we've used this illustration a million times, but I'm going to use it again. I love my cell phone as long as it does what I want it to. It serves me. It tells me my messages. It shows me my email. I can read the news. I can text. I can do Instagram. I can go on Facebook Live, whatever I want to do on my cell phone. The cell phone has no intrinsic, I don't care about my cell phone other than how it serves me. And when we have in our Christian teaching relegated Christian women to a role, you are a wife, a mom, a maid, a laundress, a servant, and you're not a person, then you don't have a no. You're like a cell phone. I need sex. You don't have a right to say no. Your body is mine. My cell phone is mine. I can use it as I want to. That's the mentality our men have grown up with. It's toxic. It's wrong. And yet that's all they've been taught in some churches and in some families. So they're not healthy in that area, and neither are women. And so this is our opportunity to be kind and gracious and say, hey, my body isn't just an object. I'm a person here. And I'm not feeling the vibes between us lately. You've been mean to me and you've cheated on me and you lied to me. I don't even want to kiss you, let alone to have sex with you. No, our relationship is broken. Right? If you think about it, and this is, taking a couple layers back, why does God tell us not to have sex before we're married? Like, why? Why is that in the Bible? Because the sexual relationship is such a vulnerable, intimate connection that you need the highest level of safety and trust in order for that to be what God designed. That's why we don't just casually have sex. People do, but it harms you. God created the sexual union to be a representation of the church and his body and the body of Christ and his church. The highest level of safety and trust. We've broken that down in marriage and in the church. But the ideal is that for you to fight for the ideal, what God designed is good and right. It's okay for you to say, hey, we don't have safety and trust in this relationship. I'm not having sex. I'm not just letting my body be used for you when I'm hurting. No.
So good. Can I just throw out one of my favorite verses around that topic right now? 2 Timothy 1:7. For the Spirit of God gave us not a spirit of timidity, but of power, love, and self-discipline.
Yeah. Melinda is making a really good point. She's saying she's afraid of her husband and what he will do to her. So those are warning bells. So if I'm being raped, I'm probably going to comply until I can get away, right? I'm not going to let myself be harmed any further than that. So if he's forcing her, then of course you're not going to say what I just said. I want you to hear what I said so that you get clear. But if you're being raped in your marriage, then it's time for you to leave that marriage. It's time for you to get safe. God values your safety and your sanity more than he does the sanctity of marriage, because the sanctity of your marriage has already been violated by your husband's abuse and deceit and mistrust. So your marriage doesn't have the sanctity of marriage in it. It's broken. And it's okay for you to be honest about that and then put yourself in a safe position. right? And we'll talk about this in the webinar. We talk about the myth of the heroic sacrifice, which I will unpack. And I just need to sacrifice myself for my marriage. I need to just sacrifice myself. No, not that way. We sacrifice ourselves for good things, but not to enable someone to sin against you. Lisa Turkhurst says, I think I've actually changed her words a bit, but she's the one who gave me the idea. God does not ask you to sacrifice the best of who you are to enable the worst in someone else. That's not a noble sacrifice.
That's right.
So get safe. Get safe. And if you have to file a protection order, rape is illegal in many states, not every, but many states. And so do what you need to do to protect yourself. All right.
You ready for another question?
Yeah. Take a deep breath.
I know that was powerful. Thank you for
it's
speaking.
Painful. It's
It is
painful.
painful.
It's painful. We didn't want this. This is not what we signed up for.
No. And, thank you for just speaking direct to that, Leslie. And we hear you and see you. Our heart grieves for you. Your mistreatment, no one deserves that. And we're here to say no more abuse, right? No more.
No more abuse.
No
and
more.
It's okay for you to stick up for yourself.
That's right.
Stick up. And that's why we need one another, because we can't do it by ourselves. I don't think the church culture is going to change through the men. I think the church culture is going to have to change with the women saying, we're not doing this anymore. Because as long as we're willing to do it, it works for them. Even for good men, it works, right? So I think it's our job to start educating our boys and our husbands who are good men. I've had some wonderful conversations with good men who still somewhat think that they're the hero of the woman's story. They're not. She's the hero of her story. He's the hero of his story. And we need to empower each other to fully be God's workmanship, who needs not be afraid to rightly divide the word of truth. Both. Ephesians isn't just speaking to men.
That's right.
We are co-heirs with Christ. The Bible isn't just speaking to men about those things. You have gifts. He's speaking to women too, but our churches don't see it that way, or they don't behave that way. And so I think women are going to have to start supporting other women to say, I'm not an object to use, and God's not asking me to be that. He's asking me to be a person in a relationship of safety and trust that he created to raise children to the next generation who have godly influences in their life. That's what I want to be. If my husband doesn't want to be that, I am not going to participate in the unfruitful deeds of darkness. I'm not going to do it.
Right. I had somebody, Leslie, paint this rock for me in our community, and I just want to show it because somebody might need to remember this.
Worthy. I am worthy.
I am worthy. And what will be different for us if we actually claim our value and our worth and not wait for somebody else to say you are worthy, but to say, I am worthy of dignity.
Yeah. Because God says so.
Because he says so.
Because God says so. Because God says so. And if God says it, then that's true. Even if your husband doesn't say it, even if your parent didn't say it, God said it. You are fearfully and wonderfully made. You are my image bearer, created in my image, male and female, in my image. Live it. You are the light of the world. You are my workmanship. Live it. And don't let someone blow your light out because your light threatens them.
That's right. Oh, so empowering. And, the other part of that verse is, and I know it full well.
I know it full well.
You know it full well.
Right.
That's part of your work to do. Do you know it? Do you believe it from the inside out?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, okay. Can you speak to the guy who's reactive and damaging and love bombs, but not consciously manipulative? Like he doesn't get it. I can't get it. Autistic spectrum, no comprehendo, defensive for his own survival. Leaves me feeling like the bad guy who just can't understand and help her child, basically. How do I live this guy who just can't understand or see his issue, no matter how you say it? Well, I've addressed this question before. And so the fact that he is hurting you and you are saying, ouch, stop, don't. And he doesn't care about that is not a result of Asperger's. The fact that he doesn't see that he's doing it is a result of Asperger's, right? He doesn't quite see the social interaction sphere of what he might be doing that's harmful. But when he does something harmful or hurtful, and you go, ouch, stop, don't, I don't like that. And he ignores you, glazes over, doesn't care, isn't a factor of Asperger's, right? I know people who have Asperger's who care when they hurt someone's feelings. They didn't realize it. They don't understand it. But when you say, ouch, they're like, oh my gosh, I'm sorry. I didn't quite get the nuance here, right? And they don't. They take responsibility. They know they have a disability, which makes interpersonal relationships more challenging, but they're humble. They care about the person they harmed. The fact that your husband doesn't care about it doesn't mean he doesn't get it. So with all disabilities, whatever it is, whether you have diabetes or you have bipolar or you have Asperger's, we all have something, right? We all have something. Childhood
Everybody's
abuse.
got something.
Everybody's got something. Nobody's perfect, right? We all got something.
We do.
And so we label people and somehow, oh, he was abused as a child. That's why he abused his daughter. Oh, he has Asperger's. That's why he doesn't care. Oh, he's narcissistic. That's why he can't. Yes, we have some disabilities. So if I'm in a wheelchair, I'm not going to be able to dance with 2 feet. That doesn't mean I can't dance in my wheelchair. Right? That doesn't mean I can't ask you how would you feel most comfortable walking down the street holding hands together if I'm sitting in this wheelchair? What would make you feel uncomfortable or what would make you feel comfortable? How can we make love while I'm sitting in this wheelchair? Let's talk about that. Right? But when someone refuses to own their disability and the impact that it has on you and how to make that safe for you, that's not the disability. That's the character issue of an unhealthy person. That's the character issue of someone who treats you as an object, not a person. We all have limitations. We all have some sort of disability, blind spot, whatever they are. Some of them are major. But the fact that I care about someone, I might not understand why you feel the way you feel if I'm Asperger's, but I do care that you feel that way.
That's right.
And if he's not showing that, that's not a result of a disability. That's him.
That's character.
That's character.
That's
selfish,
character.
pride. So if I had a disability that made my relationship with my children or my husband hard, I would go to someone who could teach me how to do it better. Right? When they don't want that, they don't want to learn, they don't want to accept their disability. They want, if I was in a wheelchair and I couldn't have normal sex with my husband, I would go to an expert in sex therapy who for disabled to help me figure out how that works because I don't know. Right? That's what you do when you care about someone and you have limitations. He's not doing that. So don't give him a pass because it's all Asperger's. It's not. We also have character traits. And when we look at pride, selfishness, cruelty, indifference, those aren't mental health issues. Those are character issues. And I wouldn't buy his excuse. So now what's your problem? His problem is he's got a disability and he's using it. I mean, would you let someone use, well, I was sexually abused as a child, so that's why I abused our daughter. Would you let that be the excuse? No. No. There's hundreds of people who were sexually abused as children who don't abuse their children. Right? So let's be discerning here, ladies. Let's learn to think and let's learn to call it a spade a spade. And I'm not saying do it cruelly, but don't let their spin story create cobwebs in your head. Right? Okay. What about the man on the spectrum who can't understand the abstract? Yes, he can't, but he can understand some things and he can value you as a helpmate who can explain the abstract. And even if he still doesn't get it, I don't get the tech that my husband has to do to fix this stuff. I don't even care to learn it, but I'm glad he's my partner and I can depend on him to do it. Right? So you might not have the marriage you expected, but can you have a healthy, safe marriage? A lot of marriages are disappointing, girlfriend, but can you have the healthy and safe components, which are essential? All right, LeAnne, I'll read this one for you. In a discussion last night, my husband said, "There is rarely a time that you've offered a solution that I haven't thought of." I told him that sounded very arrogant, and I did not end staying in core. I did not end up staying in core or Jade. I'm sorry to say. I desperately need scripts. I just felt belittled. Am I overreacting again? I felt crazy at the end of our conversation. He kept telling me I was a victim. So she would like a script, LeAnne. When he said that, what could she say that might invite a different kind of conversation than the one that ended up having with her flipping out?
Well, so I'm looking back at here and it says there's rarely a time when you've offered a solution that I haven't thought of. So he's speaking out of his pride. Cool. And so then you could say to him, what is it that you heard me say? Let him speak it into his language and see if you're on the same page. Oftentimes we're on A train and they're on B train and we're seeing things completely different. So I remember asking my husband a question. If you were to define kindness, the difference between kindness and niceness, how would you define that? And he's like, they're the same. I said, I don't see him as the same. And so this is where you get an opportunity to help him clarify what he is hearing and know what it is that you are saying. And so you said you did not stay in core, which means you did not stay in truth. You were not open to the Holy Spirit. Can I just be real? You are not taking responsibility for yourself. You are not respecting him and you are not having empathy. Way to own your stuff. Way to own your stuff. And so then what will you do to do those things? You need scripts. Come to the webinar for one. I've got a couple of quick scripts, some go-to phrases that you can say. This is not acceptable for me. This is not working for me. I don't want to do that. I can't do that for you. I can only do me. Here's something else. If you don't have a script right in front of you, we help women all the time with scripts in our world, but there are some things that you can do if you don't have a script. One, take a breath before you answer anyone when conversation temperatures are going up. Give yourself a moment to take a deep breath in and a deep breath out. The other thing that you can do is don't let him speak over you. Put your eye contact together. Oftentimes I talk with women a lot, and when I ask them about their body position, their husband is standing over them, or the power and control, whoever's having it, is standing over them and they're down below and they're hunched over and they're afraid. Girlfriend, throw your shoulders back, put your belly to the backbone, hold your chin up, look them square in the eye. You don't need scripts in order to control the posture of your body. The other thing you can do is avoid yelling. avoid yelling. So I'm going to pause there for a moment. Leslie, I saw you taking notes, and I'm going to turn it back over to you because you've got something to share, girlfriend.
Yeah, so I'm just going to work a little bit more on your problem. All right. So he has a problem. So we did this yesterday. I'm going to do it again. I hope you can read it because I don't have my black pen. I just have my yellow one. So if we chart it in these 3 columns, so what he said, rarely a time when you offered a solution that I haven't thought of. Okay. Now, what you could have said in that moment, because here's what you did. What he said, what I thought, or we'll talk my story. This is my story, and then the results. Okay. So what you did is you told yourself a story about this. You said, he's belittling me. He thinks I have nothing to offer that he doesn't already know. Okay, so you would just go on and on. So you're telling yourself a story about what he just did. Now, this is hard to do in the moment. Catch yourself here. So please don't hear me saying you should have done this. I'm not saying this. We all do this. So my husband came home and said, hey, did you do the laundry? And I heard him saying, why didn't you do the laundry? Don't you do anything all day but sit home and watch TV? I didn't say that, but that was a story I heard myself telling and I flipped out. Like, why do you think you do the laundry? Why do you think I just, this was early in our marriage, but I told myself a story about why he said what he said and what he said, but he didn't say that. He just said his laundry done because he noticed when he got dressed that morning, he didn't have any more underwear and he was going to do laundry if it wasn't done. But I flipped out, right? Because I told myself a story about what he was saying and what he meant, right? So just be careful here because we could cause a lot more damage by flipping out. So a script that I often say when I start to feel agitated by what someone's saying, like, he said, rarely a time when you offer a solution that I haven't thought of. And some of his tone would matter. I might say, here's a script. I'd look at him like this and say, what does that mean? Right? So instead of me telling it what it means, let him tell me. It means you don't really have anything significant to offer me, that your brain isn't very good. I mean, that's the story you were telling yourself that you were reacting to, right? But what if you just stopped and said, what do you mean by that? If you do that, you'll have a price to pay. Oh, really? What do you mean by that? Right? So when someone implies a threat or something scary and you're feeling that, ask them, hey, what does that mean? Because you're going to bring meaning to it. Oh, that means he's going to kill me. Oh, that means he's going to leave me. Oh, that means he's going to, what does it mean? I don't know. Ask him. Mm-hmm. Right? That would be a start. What do you mean by that? It means that every time you tell me something, I've already thought of that answer. Now, that could mean that he's being arrogant, or it could mean that you think a lot alike. And that's not necessarily a bad thing in a long-term relationship, right? Right. But you took it as an insult. Whether he meant it as an insult depends a lot on asking him, right? But you took it as an insult, and because you took it as an insult, he's belittling me. Then you reacted as if it were true, right? And then you end up feeling like the crazy one because maybe it wasn't even true. I don't know, but I'm just giving you a tool here, all of you, to say, LeAnne gave you some biological tools. Slow down, take a deep breath, even say, wait a minute, you just said something that I need to think about for a minute. That's a script. You can buy time and then say, what did you mean by that? What do you mean by that? And let them fill in the story. I meant you don't have a lot of light bulbs in your box. All right, now he did insult you. Now he did insult you. Now you know for sure. Right? And then you can say, I don't appreciate being insulted.
Yeah, it's so good, Leslie. And another thing that you can say is help me to understand more of what you're saying. And then the other thing that I have said that's super helpful is the story I'm telling myself is, and then fill in the blank, that I don't have anything to offer into the circumstance and you have all the answers Is that what you're trying to say? And if not, then they have an opportunity to do it. And sometimes you just need to shake your head and bring some humor in. And sometimes it's like, wow, do you feel like I don't have a brain in my head that I haven't thought of this too? And wow, two great minds think alike.
All kinds of different
There's
responses depending on how
all
you're taking
different
it.
ways that we can frame the same thought. And it can either be a spiral up conversation or it can be spiral down, depending on how you choose to engage with that conversation. And my friends, we don't want you to be depleted. So, what might you need to plan and prepare for in advance so that you are not depleted?
Yeah. Yeah. And these are hard things to put into practice all by yourself. And that's why we really believe in the community and the support groups that we establish so that you do have places to practice, that you have places to give feedback, like, all right, I tried this and that blew up. That didn't work. What else could I try? So that you have an opportunity. Just like if you were learning new dance steps, you would probably not just watch video, but you would go to the teacher and say, what am I doing wrong? I see it on the video, like my art. I see what she's doing on the video, but I'm like, I can't make it work quite that way. I wish she would right over my shoulder. That's going to say, just change that color a little bit and it would work out better. So that's the helpful feedback of group work and coaching and all of those kind of things, is you just get a little extra hands-on experience with the process of it. It's not just the answer that we give you right now, because now you're going to go back and try it and then it's going to blow up again and you're going to, I didn't get it yet right how I want to do it. So that's the benefit of that. We've got 2 more questions and then we're going to wrap up. What's the difference between criticizing and complaining? I think they're very similar. I think they're very similar. So what would be, is it more, they're similar in that they're both negative. They both lead to usually people being defensive. They deplete us when we do it a lot. God tells us not to do it a lot. So that would be my feedback. I think there's a appropriate way of giving feedback to someone, but it wouldn't be through the channel of criticizing and complaining. How about your thoughts, LeAnne?
Oh, I agree. And sometimes really checking your heart space on how it is that you are going to be delivering the information that you're giving. And I am a firm believer in using I statements when we are trying to have conversations with others, instead of saying, you make me, because somebody else can't make you. That's a whole nother live. But really owning how it is that you're experiencing the situation and what you will do, instead of demanding what you want to see from them.
Yeah. Okay. So just to follow up, there's 2 quick questions as you're talking, LeAnne, which I'll kind of cover. What do you do if you are depleted? Then you own it.
Yes.
So
Be
you are responsible to steward you. So if you are depleted in a conversation, if you are depleted in a relationship, if you are depleted at the end of the day with your children, with your husband, with whatever, I think it's okay for you to say, I am depleted, or I am done for today. No more. I can't give anymore. I can't talk anymore. I can't serve anymore. I can't do anymore. Done. Off. I'm turning off. But only you can decide when that is, because only you know when you're depleted. It's sort of like I use this illustration with Lisa's group a lot when we do our workshops together. You only have so much capacity to hold your urine. Some of us have more capacity than others. Some people are like camels, they can hold it all day. Other people cannot. They're like, have to tinkle every hour on the hour. But you're responsible for your capacity, whatever that is. And I would imagine that there is no one here, if they're an adult, is not wetting their pants in public, right? Because you don't want to. It embarrasses you. So the goal is, I have to know my capacity. And when I'm nearing my capacity, I better go take care of me. I better go to find a restroom, because otherwise I'm going to embarrass myself. But we seem to not recognize that we have to do that with our emotional capacity as well. and our physical capacity. I'm at capacity. I cannot give anymore, do anymore, talk anymore. I'm done. And I have to own that. I'm not an unlimited human being. I have limitations. And if someone doesn't accept my limitations, that doesn't mean I don't acknowledge them myself. If your husband said, "Oh, you don't have to go to the bathroom, you could just hold it," he'd be crazy. And you would see it. Like, you can't tell me I don't have to go to the bathroom. I have to go to the bathroom. Stop the car. I'm going to have to pee in the car. Right. And so you are recognizing your own capacity. You are responsible for you to recognize that and to steward your need to take care of you so that you don't go over capacity and humiliate yourself.
So good, Leslie. That's so important. We have an opportunity here to take ownership for our emotions, avoid blaming somebody else, and be specific about the behaviors that are okay, that are upsetting. And it's risky to be vulnerable. I get it. I get that. But nobody does well to be artificial and to pretend. Pretending will not move your relationship forward.
Yeah. So, Diane, I'm going to answer your question real quick. Is it critical when you point out sin issues that are hurting you? I think a lot of it depends on how you do it. Right? It really depends on how you do it. So in Galatians 6:1, it says, if someone is caught in trespass, you who are spiritual, restore such a one in a spirit of humility, right? In a spirit of humility. It also says that take the log out of your own eye before you attempt to remove the speck in someone else's. So do your own self-reflection first. Have humility, have gentleness. So I think the question about criticism and complaining wouldn't have those elements. And so I think if you need to speak to someone about what they're doing to hurt you, you do it in a spirit of gentleness and humility, knowing that you have sin too, knowing that you might be doing things that hurt them too, and maybe they haven't spoken up either. But it's important to be able to speak up and talk about that, because otherwise, Jesus says your relationship will not be healed. It says if someone sins against you, go to them and talk to them so that your relationship can be healed. So yes, we are to go to them. And also we're supposed to just let some things go. So let the little things go and the big deal issues that you need to talk to someone, whether it's for your benefit because they're hurting you, or maybe it's for their benefit because you see they're hurting themselves. We're still to go to them and talk to them, but in a spirit of gentleness and humility, not in a spirit of criticism and complaining. So I think, Diane, we can't control how they take it, but we do control how we deliver it. And that's on our side of the street. So I hope that answers that question. What if setting boundaries triggers intense verbal and emotional abuse to the point where he publicly shames you on Facebook Live as you cry and plead with him to stop?
Yikes. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
That totally, I didn't pull that question up. That caught me off guard. Sweetheart, get safe. That is not okay. If there's public shaming going on and humiliation and not honoring you, please, sister, you need a safety plan. 1-800-799-7233.
Yeah.
One option.
Yeah. And if you couldn't catch that, just remember 1-800, which everybody knows, 799-SAFE. Safe. That's if you're fearing danger. Your husband is manipulating you by shaming you. So he's trying to say, you will pay a price if you have a boundary. And the boundary is, I will humiliate you on public Facebook. So I would not humiliate yourself by begging and begging him to stop. I wouldn't. You're crying and pleading with him to stop publicly humiliates yourself if they're hearing you over Facebook. But it also puts you in a place of being degrading and humiliating yourself by begging him to stop. Right? You can be a grown up and say, I don't want you to do that anymore. And if you do it, this is going to be the consequence. Right? What's the consequence? I'm not staying with you. I'm not living with you when you treat me this way. Now, you may not be prepared to do that. That's why it's really important that you come to the workshop. What's my problem? Your problem. My problem is I'm not prepared to do that. So now what's my problem is not to beg him to stop, but to get prepared to leave this jerk because he's treating you horribly. And that's what you need to work on, not getting him to change. He gets something out of humiliating you. If he's going on Facebook, are you kidding? And in a patriarchal culture, that is okay. It's okay to call out the wife for being not doing her role, right? But if a woman were to do that on Facebook, she'd be called out on it from the Christian community for sure. Right. And so this is the difference, the power structure, the power difference. But you're not going to change that. And I don't know if you're in this culture or in a different culture, but because I saw your name and it sounded like from a different culture. But you can't change your culture. You're not going to change your husband. Here's where you need to decide, why am I letting myself be treated this way?
That's right.
Why am I letting, my problem is I'm scared. My problem is I have a ton of wrong teaching in my brain that says I have to let him treat me this way in order for me to be a good wife or to be a good Christian. That's not true. It's not true. And please never, ever, ever beg someone to care about you. If they don't care about you, your work is to accept them and get safe, not to beg someone to care about you. That just, especially for someone who's somewhat sadistic, they love that. They love when you're scared and beg, and it gives them energy to do it more. It feeds their sick. I get pleasure out of humiliating her. I get pleasure out of hurting her. And I get pleasure out of watching her beg me to stop. That's what rapists do. And he's raping you, sister. Maybe not sexually, but he's raping you emotionally. And he's raping you publicly. Don't let yourself be treated that way. On that note, ladies, I hope that you're seeing the power of two things. One is community, support. And you're seeing the power of knowing God's word, of rightly dividing the word of truth, of not letting false teachers, which the Bible warns you against, control your mind and twist your thinking. And if that's happened to you, then you need to recognize that and put yourself around people who are wise and read your Bible, open it, start reading it for yourself. And sign up for the workshop. Christiana, if you are unsure, sign up again. Or just go to assistant@leslievernick.com and just ask. Say, hey, I think I signed up for the workshop, but I need to be sure. So you sign up by the workshop by going to leslievernick.com/join webinar, not workshop. We've been calling it a workshop, so it's confusing, but join webinar. It's going to be an hour-long webinar. I highly, highly want you to be there. You need the support. I see it in the feed. You need the support. And if you're in the situation that you're not okay, when he doesn't act okay, you need to come to the workshop. It's at noon and 7:30 p.m. Eastern time. Both times I will be there live. My coaches will be on the chat. We really want you to get the help and support you need. You won't get any of that if you don't come live. Sometimes I understand. I'm flying on an airplane that day. There's no way I can watch the webinar. I got it. I got you. We're going to give you a replay. You can listen to the replay. You can download the workbook. You can do it yourself. It's not the same. It's not the same experience as being here. You see what the experience is like. You're feeling it. And so before we go, we're not going to leave on a bad note. I want to ask you, what's the gift? What's the gift you got today by coming? What's the gift? It might be from one another. It might not be from us at all. But what's the gift that you received by spending your hour and a half, almost 2 hours now, with us? What's the gift that you received?
So many, I just love to see how you all are encouraging each other in the feed and interacting with us. And we just celebrate the fact that you took time for yourself and that you trust and have confidence in us here in this space. And there are gifts, there are nuggets. Maybe there has been a deposit into your bank account that you want to make sure that you hang on to, because this time that you're here, we want it to be so valuable for you. So it will impact the way you navigate the rest of your day. We keep reading the word, working on me. I have freedom. I can be more understanding. I have and I know my emotional capacity.
Clarification of what I need to do if he refuses counseling. Yeah.
I'm not crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Support, script, understanding, encouragement. I was so discouraged this morning. I'm so glad, Cindy, that you got that gift. Yeah. Knowing strong truth, wise counsel, power up with your knowledge and advice. I love that. Respect and stewardship of yourself. Yeah, Erin, thank you.
Wisdom, godly tools, hope for the future.
Clarity, Michelle. I am so glad. I've seen you here a couple of times. I'm so glad you're getting clear. I'm so glad you're getting clear. Never give up your God-given right to choose. Even when you're, a prisoner of war, Viktor Frankl, who was a Jewish psychiatrist in World War II, wrote a book, Man's Search for Freedom. And he said, even when you don't have choices that you think you have, like you're in a concentration camp, you still have choices. You have the choice to decide what kind of person you're going to be every single day. Are you going to be bitter? Are you going to be resentful? Are you going to be angry? Are you going to be kind and loving and good even to your fellow prisoners? I mean, you're scrambling for a piece of bread. You're scratching for, each other's fleas off your body. You're, sharing a toilet together. And how are you going to be? You have choices. You have choices. And the more you exercise your choices, the more free you are, even in a concentration camp. That's why Jesus, this is just a little inside way of looking at scripture. When Paul tells slaves that even when your master is harsh, you have a choice to make slaves, even when your master is harsh. Or when Jesus said, hey, if the soldier forces you to walk a mile, guess what you can do? Because they just forced you. They took your choice away. You have a choice. You can walk 2 miles. If they slap you across the cheek, you have a choice. You can turn the other cheek. Don't make the choice to retaliate, he says. Choose to be a bigger person. Jesus is always reinforcing the oppressed whenever they have agency to use it so that they don't lose their power. You can make choices even in awful situations. Yeah, Danita says, my takeaway, the dangers of looking back and romanticizing it. Shar says, understand the patriarchal culture. I need to learn more about this. Edu says, I have limits. Yeah, that's been so powerful to me to really live within my limits. That's been helpful. I can show up much better when I show up well slept and taken care of than when I'm depleted, right? All of us do.
Me too.
To let this light that God gave me shine and not allow anyone to put it out. Good, good. And somebody may have caked all kinds of muck and mud around your little light. And it's not your fault that they did that, but it is your responsibility to clean it off so that you can let your light shine. All right. Tasha,
my spirit was
troubled. Yeah. Go ahead, LeAnne.
Oh, I was going to say, my spirit was so troubled before hearing you speak what I knew was present, but I started thinking I was crazy. I hear you say it on your own, and it confirms it for me. Yeah. Teachings here are a gift. I'm learning so much.
Good, good.
I'm so glad.
Well, ladies, LeAnne and I have some other obligations that we have to get to. So thank you so much. Our next Facebook Live, let me pull my calendar up and tell you when it is and what's it about. And we are going to be back tomorrow, same time in the morning. I will be on with Coach Diana, and we're going to be talking about breaking the burnout cycle, strategies for restoring energy and renewal. So that was some of the question today. We gave you a little bit of a taste of that, but we're going to really focus because so many of you are living in such toxic environments that you are very vulnerable to getting physically ill. And we don't want that to happen to you. And God doesn't want that to happen to you. I remember, and I'm going to share the story when I talk at AACC, because it was at AAC. So here it is, a Christian counselors conference. And I'm in the, room where you look at all the exhibits. And I had an exhibit at the time with my books. And this lady comes up to me with her husband next to her. And this is for pastors and counselors, and couples often come together, and her husband's right there with her. And she comes and she goes, "Can I give you a hug?" And I said, "Sure." And she gives me this big hug and she whispers in my ear. Now she was about 40 years old. She whispered it in my ear. She goes, "My husband's abusive. He's a pastor. I've already had one heart attack. How much longer do I need to stay?" And I was horrified. She's telling me this in my ear. Her husband's right there. She's scared. And she's already suffered a heart attack at 40 from the stress of being in this relationship. She was not safe. And she didn't know what to do. This should not be. This should not be. And please don't let yourself get to that place. God is not honored by that heroic sacrifice. He's not asking you to do that in order to enable someone else to stay sinful and selfish. So show up tomorrow and we'll talk about some ways that you can restore your health, your body, your spirit, your mind. Thanks, LeAnne, so much for partnering with me today. It's been a good 2 hours. Thanks for being able to stay longer, and we'll talk to you guys later tomorrow. Bye-bye.